Hello, I am Charles Harris, and I'd like to give you my informative essay or speech regarding Japan's cultural values. Japan and its people have a way of life and standard of living that is now studied, admired, copied, and envied by the rest of the world. A quote by Peter Hanami. Japan was settled over 30,000 years ago, and its culture has developed tremendously over time. I've personally always been curious about Japan and its history and culture. Outside of cherry blossoms, geishas, sushi, and samurai, I've really had very little knowledge of its culture, which makes Japan the perfect to research and analyze. Japanese cultural values are rooted in high certainty avoidance, individual collectivism, and high context. Even within our own communities, there are differences among cultures and co-cultures. Culture usually refers to the language, values, and belief of people, of that people share and learn. Co-culture is simply a subgroup of culture. For example, myself being American is my culture, me being a black American is my co-culture. Now, differences among cultures vary from country to country and are magnified when not looking just at a single country, but when you look at the entire world. One method of gaining an insight into a country's culture is to use an analytical tool such as the Culture Compass, which is an extensive research tool used to study the consequences of culture. An individualistic culture is a culture in which members focus on the value and welfare of individual members, as opposed to a concern for the group as a whole. Collectivistic culture is one where members focus on the welfare of the group as a whole, rather than that of individuals. Japan scored a 46 out of 100 on the individualism dimension, which puts them in the middle of the spectrum. According to Hofstede Insights, the Japanese are experienced collectivists by Western standards and experienced individualists by Asian standards. They're more private and reserved than most Asians. Now, that explains why I found so many opposing examples. The fact that the Japanese language doesn't have the equivalent to the English version of I should tell the full story, right? Not even close. Some studies show that the rise of individualism stems from the rise in urbanization of Japan and families' ability to earn more money than previous generations. In Japanese culture, members seemingly already understand what's being implied by what's not being said. They're okay with long pauses or even awkward silence. People on the other end of the messages have to decode the body language to sometimes get the gist of the conversation. This attitude runs deep throughout their history and is a great example why they're considered to have a high context culture. In high context cultures, members use subtle and sometimes nonverbal cues as to not upset others and maintain a positive social balance. As stated in Global Insights article, How to Live Happily Ever in Japan's high context culture, the fundamental skills are observations and inference. Observation is not just watching other people, but actively observing all the details of nonverbal behaviors and communications. American travelers or business people often find it challenging to communicate or understand the people of Japan, and that includes the people who speak Japanese fluently. There's even a saying that only the Japanese really understand the Japanese. Now, uncertainty avoidance can be loosely defined as a cross-cultural phenomenon that describes how different cultures or societies react and tolerate uncertainties. It can be measured by using the Uncertainty Avoidance Index. As stated in the Hofstede Insights research, at score of 92, Japan is one of the most uncertainty-avoiding countries on Earth. This is often attributed to the fact that Japan is constantly threatened by natural disasters. Japan's physical location means that it constantly faces a barrage of natural disasters almost every year. We're talking typhoons, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, you name it, and they've been through it. In a previous earthquake, almost 8,000 homes were destroyed. These experiences have had a lasting impact on their culture and made them a high uncertainty avoidance culture. They have collectively worked together to create solutions to mitigate the negative impact of future natural disasters. Japan, also known as the land of the rising sun, has a rich history that's helped to shape its people and culture. It was fascinating to learn about a culture so different than my own. It also helped me to look at cultures from a different lens. It's not about the differences in cultures, it's about looking at a culture and understanding how it helps its society or people in daily life. My research helped me to gain a better insight and greater appreciation for the Japanese culture, and perhaps a better understanding of my own. Japanese cultural values are rooted in high certainty avoidance, individual collectivism, and high context. Thank you so much for listening to my informative essay on the Japanese cultural values. I'm Charles Harris. Thank you.